Next question. Hello. Do you happen to have a podcast discussing loyalty to marriage that involves marriage to a service member? I see many marriages, military spouse, where the service member has a great background in the military, but lacks marriage at home.
You know, I actually have answered this question before, and maybe not this specific, but I'm going to go over it quickly just because this isn't just about military, relationships. It's about any relationship. But, from a military perspective, absolutely, military relationships are very hard. You've got time away. You've got classified work. There's a lack of understanding of what's going on at work. And you've got lives at stake, right? And with that, the job has to come first. And that's a very hard thing for people to understand, that the job has to come first. Why does it have to come first? For survival. Because the harder you train, the better you know your teammates, the better shot you are, the better your chance for actual survival in a combat situation. So a spouse has got to understand that, right? That in order for the service member to take care of the family, the service member has to do his utmost to prepare himself and his team for war. The number one priority. Now, what the spouse has to understand is that this doesn't mean that he wants to spend time away from his family. He doesn't want to prioritize his team over his family. He doesn't want to miss the recital, doesn't want to miss the ball game, doesn't want to miss the teacher's conference, but he has to. He has to. So, spouse, don't be mad when he makes that priority. Accept and understand that the family is the number one priority. It is the number one priority, but in order to be there for the family, he's got to prepare for war so that he can come home to his family after deployment. Now, this obviously also applies to police. This applies to firefighters. And I'll tell you what, it applies really to the breadwinner, man or wife, husband or wife, in any walk of life, right? If you're the breadwinner for the family, that's what you're doing. The way that you're taking care of the family is by bringing home money so that there is food and housing and clothing and a secure future. That's what you're doing. And so the spouse in these situations has to understand that the hard work and the hours and the days and the weeks that are taken away from the family is actually done to provide for the family, right? So that's the key piece that people have to understand, that the spouse has to understand. Now, the service member, and again, I've talked about this before, the service member or the firefighter or the police officer or the breadwinner, what they have to do is they have to make sure that they don't go overboard, that they draw the line somewhere, that they don't destroy what it is that you're trying to protect. Don't destroy what it is you're trying to take care of. Don't give the plant so much water that you drown it. Don't cook the steak so long that you burn it. Don't work so hard for your family that you don't have a family anymore. You got to have the balance. And one of the things that you got to do is you got to explain that to the family. And you got to tell them what's up, and you got to tell them that they are the most important thing, and that all this work that you're doing that's taking you away from them is actually being done for them. And you got to communicate that to them. You got to understand. It's hard for them. It's hard for a 8-year-old kid to understand why you're missing the baseball game, or why the 6-year-old girl why you're missing the jiu-jitsu tournament or whatever. It's hard to explain that. But you've got to at least try. You've got to make it evident to them, and you also have to make sure you don't abuse it. Right? Because work work can be fun. And hanging out with our teammates for an extra day of shooting or an extra day of jumping or having a beer at the pub on the way home, that can all sometimes be more appealing than the recital, than the ball game. So don't abuse it. You have to take care of your family. And you have to talk to each other and understand this balance together. Understand the sacrifices that are being made on both sides so that you can work it out and maintain the strength of that entity, the family that you're trying to take care of.
Agree.
Yeah. And I mean, I walk the line on this one. I work hard, and I worked hard for my whole life.
Yeah, and it's going to depend too, right? I mean, like how you say, don't work so hard that you don't have a family. It depends how rigid or resilient like the family is, and that has to do with like, you know, you explaining, and it's kind of like lifting and overtraining. You know, I'm lifting so I can get these results when I rest or all this stuff, right? But if I'm just lifting, no rest, but it's going to depend on how strong I am to begin with, kind of thing. So I mean, man, it makes sense. You know.
It's helpful.
I think if you explain it though, like how you say with everything, just keep explaining. Bro, my daughter last night asked me why. She wasn't sad or nothing like that, but she's like, "Why do you work so much?" The thing is, I mean, let's face it, I don't work so much, but as far as she's concerned, if I'm not playing with her at that moment, oh, you work too much. I can work 1 minute. She's like, I work too much, but I was like, oh, dang, I had to think of it from her perspective. You know, and I explained it all, and she had fun me explaining it, you know? Yeah. And now she understands.
I had, I was like sitting having a dinner with my family, you know, and we don't eat together every single night because we're all busy doing a bunch of different things. So we were having dinner, and for some reason I had something going on. It's business where I pulled out my phone, and I was texting someone, going back and forth. And, you know, one of my kids was, you know, why are you on your phone right now? And then, you know, my wife chimed in, can't you just put that down? And I said, hey, just so everybody knows.
Did you get defensive?
I did get a little bit defensive.
Honestly.
I said, just so everybody knows, if I could, I would take this phone and throw it in the ocean and never look at it again. But I have work to do. And sometimes my work involves working at night, and most of the time if I'm working at night, it's on this little gadget right here that I have to look at. So that's why I'm doing this, not because I don't want to listen to you, not because I don't want to sit here and just focus on the family right now, but guess what? I got work to do, and the work that I'm doing is not for me. It's for this family, so we can have a house, so we can have food on the table. So back off. But they got the point. You know what I mean? I didn't really yell the back off point. But they understand. They realize, you know. And for my young daughter that was, 5 years old at the time, I said, this is how we get food, and this is how you get toys. I have to work to buy you toys. Yeah. You know? Do you not want any more toys? She was like, no, go ahead and answer the phone. Yeah. Dad.
Yeah. Did you have work to do? The toy. That's why you have toys. That was part of my speech too.
There you go.
I wasn't all nuts though.
You didn't get nuts like I did?
It wasn't very confrontational. She was like smiling.
She doesn't get confrontational.
Keep in mind, when I'm working, she has the option to jump on my lap.
Right.
Keep that in mind. Right. So this isn't a troublesome situation for me, and I understand that. But the point still is there, though. You explain it like you explained it, or like how I explained it, and if they know and they understand, then it's like it's clear, you know. But that's not to say that they don't have a point, though, because sometimes, especially if you don't explain or you're not engaged at all, these people who they're on the phone.
That's why you need to check yourself. That's why you need to check yourself and make sure that you're not going overboard, that you're not abusing it. Because you know what, does that client really need to hear from me at this moment?
Yes.
The answer is, and this is, I figured out years later, it's like, no, actually, they don't need to hear from me right now.
Yeah. Not all the time. Sometimes.
Sometimes, but they can hear from me a little bit later.
Yeah.
After dinner.
Yeah. When I text you right back, you have to respond right back.
Yeah. No, you have to respond right back.
Sometimes I'm busy cruising.